Hi, I'm Dr. Dallas. Welcome to Ask Dr. Dallas, and today we're going to be talking about Color Me Well. Do you know which foods will heal the body based on their color types? And do you know what staple foods you should have in your pantry to make sure that your foods have the ability to heal you of disease and illness? We're going to talk about all of that in the next hour, so make sure you stay tuned. Greetings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated. What's so fabulous about True Pop Popcorn? First of all, it's air popped, so the dietary fiber is high. They use nutritional yeast to make it taste like it has cheese on it, and sunflower oil to give it a buttery flavor without adding the bad stuff. It's absolutely great. You'd never think it was vegan. That's True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated in 3 yummy flavors: just plain good, garlic overdose, and the crowd favorite. Stop by your nearby stores and get some today, or feel free to go to dallaspopcorn.com. Hi, and welcome to show number 4, Color Me Well. Today we're going to be talking about how the colors of foods can heal the body. And so there's some basic things that we should all know about the color of foods. But what I want to talk about and what I want to discuss about how we came to this particular subject matter today is that guess who got a dog this weekend? So just out of nowhere, someone's like, Dr. Dallas, you need a dog, and I have the perfect dog for you. It's a 5th generation bulldog. Her name is Oreo because she has one black eye and one white eye. I'm actually going to shoot a picture over to the studio and see if we can get a picture of her up before I leave today. However, 5th generation bulldog, 5 years old, had one litter of 8 puppies, about a year ago. So dog comes over, and I'm a runner. So he says, oh, she's in good shape. So we go out running. I think I increased my PR time running with her. Just phenomenal dog. Then I took her out walking, walks very fast. Took her to the tennis courts. She quietly, patiently sat for the entire 2.5 hours that I hit tennis balls. The second time that I took her to the tennis court, I was actually able to tie her to the tennis net and not have a problem. And we had people on all 3 courts adjacent to me. And they all said the same thing. Wow, I didn't even know she was there. So wonderful dog, wonderful disposition, very fit, housebroken, of course. And so I just kind of looked at her a few times over the weekend, and whenever she would just sit for an hour or 2 hours or the 3 hours when I was on a tennis court, before she would get up and start moving, she would like stretch the body out, very alert at what was going on around her. When small dogs would bark at her, she just wouldn't even pay him any attention. The larger dogs, it was like just a little bit of a stare. And then, of course, another dog that was an actual pit bull. There was some growling going on. But outside of that, just great company. So the question is that these animals that basically don't take care of themselves, you take a dog that comes from nowhere, she's able to fit right into a new owner's healthy regimen without missing a beat. Just, run. And I wondered if I would have ran 1 mile, 3 miles, 5 miles, 8 miles, which had been right there with me. And chances are, I believe, yes. A little bit of labored breathing towards the end, but not much. So why is it that we as Americans, we as individuals, have such a difficult time adjusting to life? Because life in and of itself is predicated on how we feel. When people ask me what is fitness or how do you describe fitness, I always say when you have enough energy to do what you need to do, what's required, and some left over. And so what does that look like? That looks like a day of fulfilling your normal activities, whether they're work related, whether you work for yourself, and having the ability to go out and walk a dog, run with a dog, or to chase your children around the playground. Too many times when I'm running through the baseball, soccer fields, I see a lot of adults sitting on the benches while their kids are just really in somewhat of a mobile position within 15 feet parameter. Not because the child doesn't have the ability to go beyond that, not because the child doesn't want to go beyond that, because you often hear the parent calling them back in, but simply because the parent doesn't have the energy to be able to keep up with that child. Should a parent be able to keep up with a child as a parent gets older? Absolutely. All of our vital forces, our energy levels, the rejuvenation of how we feel is all going to depend on what we're doing with our bodies. So this dog, I know, was brought up on really good food, some high quality food, eats once a day, adequate amount of water. You know, a dog owner is always going to make sure that their dog, their pet, is hydrated. So the same things that, and I'm saying this because most people are pet owners. A lot of people that are unhealthy themselves are actually pet owners, which I don't understand, because you have to go out and walk that dog twice a day. But I have seen people, I have neighbors, all of my neighbors have pets. And some people will open the back door and let the dog run out, twice a day. Some people will hire someone else to come and walk the dog. Lots of dog walkers, a lot of money in that field today. And so my whole platform is the E3, educating, equipping, and encouraging individuals to be offensive, not defensive, but offensive, to do things that are proactive in this war against the big three: obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. And when you look at all three of those diseases, and we'll talk in depth about them in the upcoming weeks, you want to make sure that you have the arsenal to be able to fight this war that's literally taking us out of here. And all three of those things eventually have something to do with the cancer levels that we see. The National Cancer Institute recently did a survey of 12,000 individuals. And of the 12,000 individuals, in a 24-hour period, less than 40% had one piece of fruit in the previous 24 hours. Less than 20% had at least one vegetable within the previous 24 hours. The same group of individuals that were tested, more than 55% of those individuals had red meat within the last 24 hours. More than 40% had either some type of processed lunch meat, or bacon. 40% of Americans are having bacon on a daily basis. 55% or more are having red meat on a daily basis, and only less than 20% are having a vegetable on a regular basis, and less than 40% are having fruit on a regular basis. So when we start talking about the amount of energy that we need to chase our children, the amount of energy we need to be able to comprehend information that we're taking in, the amount of energy that we need just to do life's daily physical activities, the amount of energy that we need to maintain a fitness level, is highly dependent on what we're feeding our bodies, how we're moving our bodies, and how our minds are working on a regular basis. A positive attitude, positive thinking, being good to yourself includes that. Yes, we have to move our bodies. Yes, we have to eat well. But even more important, I believe, is how we feel on a day-to-day basis. The energy that zaps the body from the stress of the mental and emotional challenges that we deal with is probably contributing to the high cancer rates more so than the sedentary lifestyles and the bad diets that we partake in. But this is the holistic hour, so we're always going to talk about all three things in unison. So what I want to start with is how we get to a point where we have those energy levels, where we have the things that we need to be able to move through life in a manner like that healthy dog that just adapts to its environmental conditions. Because sometimes we're moved, we're transferred, our jobs take us out of the area, our children, bring on all kinds of surprises. And so how do we adapt to the daily stresses that are forced on us every day, the stress levels of just what's going on in America today? The political paradigm just has people off guard. And I often listen to people as they're talking about number 45, and I think sometimes they're going to have a stroke or heart attack right in my presence. And so how do we get to a point where we don't allow other things to just take us off of our base emotionally, physically, and mentally? And it starts with what we put into our bodies. And so what we're going to talk about starting out is just the color me well thing. Depending on what's going on with you, you should at least know the characteristics of foods. So in our book, and if you don't know that, you need to get Temple Restoration and maintenance. And temple restoration and maintenance, not only do we tell you about the color characteristics of foods, but it's just a nice little booklet that gives you so much. It's what I call my apple book, because apples are packed with minerals and vitamins. And this book is packed with information that will help you get through life in a very simplistic manner. All types of little recipes are included, things that just will help you take care of your liver on a daily basis, things that help to protect the gallbladder on a daily basis. You have that in here. But also you have the characteristics of the foods, along with some really yummy recipes and things. So when we start talking about the characteristics of food colors, the main thing that we need to know is that when you look on the chart of minerals and vitamins, you have all of the minerals and vitamins listed and some of the other nutrients. So it's about 32 columns. So when you start looking at the 32 columns going across the board, in many of the columns, I would venture to say 75% or so of the columns, you will see dark green leafy vegetables. Just depends on which column you're looking at. Other ones you may see oranges, carrots. So it tells you what types of foods that you can get these 32 nutrients from. Now, if you see dark green leafy vegetables in more than 75% of the columns, does it matter what you're getting from the dark green leafy vegetables? No, it doesn't. What matters is that you're getting dark green leafy vegetables on a regular basis. So let's look at those dark green leafy vegetables as an example. So they're filled with chlorophyll. We wouldn't exist, the planet wouldn't exist without chlorophyll. And so the most important thing that everybody needs to know on a daily basis, unlike 80% of Americans that obviously don't know that based on the survey that the National Cancer Institute took, and only 20% are having a vegetable on a regular basis, you absolutely have to eat fruits and vegetables every day. I put this photograph up here just so that you can see what happens when you just eat a plethora of fruits and vegetables every day. When we eat fruits and vegetables every day, we're covering a multiplicity of colors. We've got orange here, we've got yellow, we've got the beets, we've got green, but mostly you see green because this is a vegetable photograph. And so no matter how many vegetables you're eating, chances are you're going to get some green stuff in there. But what does green foods do? Green foods clean the blood. Now, for those of you who have ever gone to the doctor, you know that he can ask you to cough, he can tell you to stick your tongue out, he can do a lot of things. But before he can give you a true diagnosis of your particular situation, he has to do what? He has to take a blood sample. And so why is that so important? That's so important because it all happens at the cellular level. It all happens at the blood level. That's going to determine what's going on with you. That's how they're going to characterize all the symptoms that you have based on the information that they get from the blood sample. Now, if that's that important as to determine what's going on with you, then that would be a starting point for me anyway. It's like the blood is like really, really important. So what's my blood looking like? How can I take better care of my blood? If something's going on with me, and it all depends on when you go into the hospital, the doctor's office, your blood is tested, when they put you on a regimen or they even give you a surgical procedure or whatever, they're constantly going to be taking blood samples after every particular procedure is done, because if there's to be a change in you, then there has to be a change in the blood sample. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. It's really elementary when you start piecing it together like this. So just starting there, green foods clean the blood. If you don't remember anything from anything else I say on this show or any other show that I do, remember that green foods clean the blood. Green foods clean the blood. I want you to close your eyes and say that with me. Green foods clean the blood. That is so important. But what happens when we clean out the trash can? So you can go into the trash can and you can start cleaning the walls of the trash can. Now you've got some debris and stuff from the cleansing process itself. So now what do we need to do? Now that we've cleaned the blood, we need to make sure that the blood is moving. Red foods are like arterial stimulants. They move the blood. Green foods clean the blood. Red foods move the blood. What about your kid that's bouncing off the wall, acts like they have absolutely no sense? Nothing like the dog I had this weekend. So calm, so gentle, so just, I call her my Zen dog. She's like an kind of thing. And so blue foods are for the mind. All of the stress that you're dealing with the political scene, the stress that you're dealing with your colleagues on your job and everybody else, blue food. So you have to think, okay, going into an environment that's very stressful on the mind, I need to take me a cup of blueberries with me. Blueberries, we immediately think about blueberries when we think about blue foods. But I want you to remember this. There's something in this picture that's blue that you may not readily recognize as being a blue food. And that would be the celery right here on the side. Celery is considered to be a blue food. And that's important to remember and to know because celery has one of the basic nutrients in it that is so instrumental in getting the body well, and that's sodium. We have our cellular structure, and inside of the cells we have intracellular fluid. On the outside of the cells we have extracellular fluid. The extracellular fluid is very important because it helps to keep the cell in balance in conjunction with the intracellular fluid. The intracellular fluid is controlled by potassium, which we get from our carrots. The outside fluid is controlled by sodium. Most times if you have some type of pain in your body and it is relegated just to the left-hand side of the body, you almost immediately know that I almost immediately know when you tell me that that's a sodium deficiency. Get me some celery, and I put it into a blender. I blend it up with some distilled water and I drink it, and chances are that pain will kind of dissipate. It's an immediate sign of a sodium deficiency. And when you have a sodium deficiency, so that fluid on the outside of the cell is down, then there's no way the body can be balanced because the fluid is not where it should be. And so when we balance the two, which is why carrot celery juice, where you have the potassium and the sodium, works perfect in most cases where there's some type of acute illness. It just does. I mean, it's just what the body needs. When you go to the hospital, all of a sudden I feel great when they give me an IV because in the IV packet, there's sodium and there's potassium. This is a great way to just start eliminating in terms of finding out what's going on with the body, getting the body balanced again. So again, green foods, close your eyes with me so that we have muscle memorization in the brain. Green foods clean the blood. Red foods, arterial stimulants, move the blood. Blue foods are good for the mind, the body, and the spirit. Then we move to the largest elimination channel is the skin. So when you look at me, you look at yourself in the mirror, what's the largest thing that you see all over you is your skin. And so what controls the skin? Orange foods. Orange foods are excellent for the skin. Oranges, carrots, all of your orange foods. Typically, if you've got an acne problem going on, dry skin, dry spots, pimples, instead of going in to see the, not the cosmetologist, I'll think about it in a minute, the skin person, you just need to go again to the kitchen, pull some carrots out, throw them into a juicer, and start drinking some carrot juice. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. You can drink so much. I drink so much carrot juice in the wintertime that my hands actually begin to turn orange. And so orange foods, definitely for the skin. Mango, they have lots of vitamin A, D. Orange foods. Skin problem, orange foods, okay? So we have green foods clean the blood. Red foods move the blood. Blue foods are for the mind and the spirit. Orange foods are for the skin. And then we have yellow foods. That lemon there. Yellow foods are natural laxatives. So when you think about that, what's the first food that you think about? You think about a banana. Now, a banana has some potassium in it. This is a very, very small amount in terms of actually moving as a natural laxative. What I want you to remember when you think yellow foods are natural laxatives, I want you to remember black mission figs, Turkish figs, your natural figs. Obviously, a black mission fig is black in color. A Turkish fig is usually brownish in color, but I want you to look a little closer, because what determines what a food is? The seed of the food. We talked last week about female and male seeds being in various foods, and how you pick a female watermelon and determine all of the different things that you get for your glandular system based on the seeds of foods. And when we started eating so many seedless foods is when we started having so many imbalances in people. So I'm just finish this one up, and then we're going to go to a break. So the yellow seeds, when you look into a Turkish fig or a black mission fig, you see these little teeny seeds, and those seeds are yellow in color. I know that you've been brought up to believe that prune juice and prunes are like the best thing for natural laxatives, but it's not. Start thinking figs, black mission figs, and Turkish figs are just wonderful for that. And then the better thing that goes along with that is that kids love them, black mission figs and Turkish figs, because they taste like candy. They have like this sugary taste to them that most people don't even recognize. And so that way you can substitute that into a cereal or something else instead of actually using processed sugar, white sugar. And the child will never know it, and then they'll have something to crunch on as well. So that's great for being a natural laxative. It's as simple as that. You are going to get some great results if you've not experienced eating figs on a regular basis. It will become your go-to food for any type of gastrointestinal problems and definitely constipation. So once again, green foods clean the blood, red foods move the blood, yellow foods are natural laxatives, blue foods are great for the mind and the body, just calming the spirit down, and orange foods are for the skin. White foods, it's a different story. We'll talk about that when we come back from a commercial break. You're listening to Dr. Dallas here on Ask Dr. Dallas. We'll be right back. Greetings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated. What's so fabulous about True Pop Popcorn? First of all, it's air popped, so the dietary fiber is high. They use nutritional yeast to make it taste like it has cheese on it, and sunflower oil to give it a buttery flavor without adding the bad stuff. It's absolutely great. You'd never think it was vegan. That's True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated in 3 yummy flavors: just plain good, garlic overdose, and the crowd favorite. Stop by your nearby stores and get some today, or feel free to go to dallaspopcorn.com. Okay, so we're back, and we talked about green foods cleaning the blood, red foods moving the blood, blue foods being great for the mind and the spirit, orange foods being good for the skin, and I talked about yellow foods being natural laxatives. So the other food I said just before the commercial break are white foods. What actually are white foods? What do we consider to be white foods? When you take a look, I brought these in just for this example. We have 2 apples here. So we have a yellow apple and a red apple. This is not a natural laxative in the sense of a yellow food, and this is not an arterial stimulant in the sense of a red food. So the apples, what you'll have to do is cut them open. When you cut them open, they're going to be white in color. So both of these are basically considered to be white foods. White foods are very interesting because they're considered to be oxygen carriers. So what are oxygen carriers? A lot of times when people come into my office, what we do for your consultation is you do bioelectronic testing. So you hold like a metal rod and it tests you based on the magnetic field around you. And based on that, it tests all 32 systems of the body. So in like 5 minutes of holding this rod, I will know what is going on in your cardiovascular, cerebrovascular system, gastrointestinal system, endocrine, liver, kidneys, your blood sugar levels, everything. It is so amazing. It's an amazing thing. You should come in and get tested if you don't do anything else. But also in there, when I'm testing, the systems are tested based on the priority in the body. And so the gut, when you think about it, I always tell people you can only be as healthy as your gut, okay? Gut health is crucial to an individual being well. However, what about that? Let's think about that for a moment, okay? So when we have a stomach that protrudes out, what is that? That's undigested matter. So imagine not emptying the trash can, and what happens when you take the top off the trash can, you have a ton of parasites and all kinds of things flying around. It's the same thing that's happening internally. So whenever we see the protrusion, it's not about vanity for people that want flat stomachs, it's about health and well-being, because the more the stomach protrudes, not only are you carrying a considerable amount of undigested matter, some average 40 to 60 pounds has to be removed from most individuals by the mortician. Think about that for a moment. 40 to 60 pounds of undigested matter, just caped on matter that has not been properly eliminated from the system because the body wasn't able to digest and assimilate that stuff that we put in that wasn't natural and whole. Okay, so when you have that in the body, it begins to weigh down. Where does it weigh down on? A moment ago, we talked about the importance of the blood being clean so that the doctor, when he takes a diagnosis of the blood, there's nothing there, then the body is well. Okay? When there is something there, we have these particles in the bloodstream because the blood is not clean, the blood is not moving freely. It's just like what happens in your sewer system for your home. When it's backed up, it's clogged up, stuff's not moving. And so that stuff that's not moving, a lot of times that's your cholesterol, it's blood fat, it's the viscosity. And so we're walking and living, but when I'm testing people, I'm looking at their cardiovascular, cerebrovascular system. And so it's telling me what the blood looks like. It's telling me your myocardial blood demand. It's telling me your vascular resistance and elasticity. How is your blood moving when you're at a resting position? How's your blood moving when you're in a moving position? All of these things are critical in terms of whether or not you'll have a heart attack or stroke, just what's happening with the moving body and its functionality. And so when we talk about white foods being oxygen carriers, a lot of times I'm testing people, and just we know a lot about the clogging of the arteries when it's attached and very close to the heart. But the same thing happens in the brain. There's a lot of blood that needs to move and circulate through the brain, and if it doesn't, it begins to harden, and then you have all kinds of problems with your cerebral. So I tell people that I'm looking at your blood tissue supply demand, and it goes from a range of like 6 points to 21 points. Most people are like at 9 or 8 points. That still has you in the normal range just because it's between 6 and 21. But if you break that up, ideally you want to be at 12 or 13. And when you're not at 12 or 13 and you're just at 7 or 8, and for people outside of the zone that are like at 4, I'm saying you are a walking zombie because there is no blood circulating there, which means that's the reason we don't know. Everybody says, where are my car keys? At some point, sometime during the week, people go, where are my car keys? I mean, but if you really think about that, what do you mean, where are your car keys? Where did you put your car keys? Does that happen to everybody? That happens to people on the Alzheimer's unit whose brain is not functioning well. But we just look at it like, oh, where are my car keys? And no one looks at us like we're crazy. But you are crazy because you don't know where your car keys. Where did I park my car? Just because all the parking levels look alike? No, it's because the brain is not being fed. The blood is not circulating through the brain. So you have this fog. It's literally a fog. It's like when you go out in the morning and the dew hasn't settled yet, and there's a fog, you can't see your car, you can't see beyond the hood of your car when you get into your car. It's the same thing that happens in the brain. It's a fog. So I expect you to be able to comprehend what I'm saying, or to assimilate the information that someone's giving you when the brain is not functioning. You must feed the brain, you must feed the entire body, get the blood clean, get the blood moving around, and that way we become rejuvenated, our energy levels are high, the fatigue goes away, the fog, the brain fog goes away. And that's how we protect ourselves too on this influx of Alzheimer's and dementia that's coming up on everybody. A lot of that simultaneously has to do with the more processed and fast foods that we're eating, the more devitalized foods that we're eating, the conditions that we're working under, the stress levels that we're putting our bodies through. So that's why we wanted to talk about the food colors, just so that you get an idea of what foods. And so where do we find a variety of colors? Not in a steak and potato dinner. You have steak and potatoes. How many colors are you even looking at? What colors are you? I haven't said anything this morning about brown foods do what for the body? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. So what are we looking at? And don't try and say red meat is considered a red food. No, that's not a red food. We're talking tomatoes, cherries, cayenne pepper. Okay. So when you have, however, a salad that has mixed greens, we have shredded carrots, shredded beets, we have tomatoes, we have pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. We just have a plethora of colors in there. And so think about what you're doing to the body just by consuming something that's multicolored, a variety. And so when we're going through the shopping mall as well, we want to fill our basket with things that are very colorful coming out of the produce section. So when you go into the store, you have the produce section, you wind around to the dairy and meat section, and then you have all of these aisles with packaged foods. Try to put a minimal of those packaged foods into your carts, unless you're going down the aisle to get some of these superfoods. But put the majority of the foods from the produce section. That should take up the large section of your shopping cart. The produce aisle. Fresh fruits and vegetables. The little small section on the top, if you have to have some dairy and meat products, don't let it consume more than the little part on the cart where you usually put the kit. So that's a good way to say, what should my shopping cart be looking like? I didn't say not to put any meat in there for those of you who are eating meat and you're going to continue to eat meat and dairy products. I'm just saying that the majority of your cart should be filled with those things that are high in colors, because when you're eating a multiplicity of colors in your diet, you're getting a multiplicity of minerals and vitamins on a regular basis that you need every single day. These are the things that will rejuvenate the cellular structure. There's no thing known to medicine, modern medical science, that is going to be able to rejuvenate, repair the tissue damage that the body suffers from illness and trauma. It's just as simple as that. And that trauma is inclusive of stress events, whether it's a migraine headache or a heart attack itself. So that's it in a nutshell. It's a healthy, nutritious diet that is comprised of lots of fruits and vegetables. Whether you're doing 5 to 7 servings of vegetables and 3 to 4 servings of fruit every single day, or you're like myself doing 10 servings of fruit and 10 to 15 servings of vegetables every day, it is what keeps you well. I've been so busy here lately that I usually make lots of salad on Sunday, and I don't put the greens in. I put the bulk of the stuff is in a container with some apple cider vinegar on it. Just kind of got off of that for a few days, and I can just tell I'm feeling like I'm in a fog, comparatively speaking. And so we want to do that on a regular basis. Definitely nuts and seeds, because of all of the great things that are in there. That's going to be a show by itself. But today, the remainder of today's show, what we want to talk about, now I have the fruits and vegetables here just so that I could explain the example that I went through a minute ago. But outside of the fruits and vegetables, there are also some things that I call staple things, staple products. And these are some of the things that's listed here. I call them my favorites. These are things that I live by on a regular basis. Then just scan here with the camera, and then we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to spend the rest of the time exclusively talking about why these items should be a part of your life and how they so easily help us to think well, to be well, to do well. And I want to say that, to do well, not just to be well, but to do well. You know, how we treat other people. Are we loving our fellow man? Are we being kind to one another? These are also things that just keep us well. And the things that we do on a regular basis. It's Monday morning. There are a lot of people that can't wait until Friday gets here because they absolutely hate their jobs. You know, I'm not recommending that you go and quit your job, but that is not good for your health. You've got to be, the more you enjoy the thing that you're doing the majority of the time, that is going to have a huge impact on your system, on your cellular structure. So all of these things, just having a balance of not just how we move our bodies, what we feed our bodies, but how our bodies think and relate to other people and other things and situations. The more we can do something on a regular basis. I work long hours, but I so enjoy what I do, being able to have people come in that are not well, to give them advice on how to get well, And the reciprocal of that, when you help a person get well, the energy and the love that they send back in your direction helps to keep me revitalized on a regular basis. And to just know at the end of the day that you've done some good. Your life is worth living. So these things are important. So sometimes too, we need to just think, where are we in life? What are the things that we're doing? And how can it all be better? And so that's my 2 cents. We're going to go to a break, and I'm going to come back and tell you why I keep all of these items in my pantry year round and for years to come. Greetings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated. What's so fabulous about True Pop Popcorn? First of all, it's air popped, so the dietary fiber is high. They use nutritional yeast to make it taste like it has cheese on it, and sunflower oil to give it a buttery flavor without adding the bad stuff. It's absolutely great. You'd never think it was vegan. That's True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated in 3 yummy flavors. Just plain good, garlic overdose, and the crowd favorite. Stop by your nearby stores and get some today, or feel free to go to dallaspopcorn.com. Okay, we're back. So we got about 20 minutes, and I want to just talk about some things. So we talked about green foods cleaning the blood. So here's one of my superfoods. Just kind of grab some things on the way out. So this is spirulina. Spirulina is actually a green-blue algae, and it literally grows on the rocks in the ocean. It has a smell that makes you... This is another thing about foods. Talk about aromatherapy, people think lavender, but when I do lectures, I typically make salads. And so when people come into the room, there's this aroma of onions and peppers and carrots and beets, and it's all fused together. And I never have a problem with people being kind of agitated, because all of those are part of aromatherapy and color therapy. These are things that when you read about the healing arts, they talk about aromatherapy, they talk about color therapy. What does that mean? And again, we're just so focused on the lavender, peppermint, and eucalyptus. But all good, whole, pure, natural foods have the same ability. And so this, a moment ago, I just had a little something in my throat. So I just took a swiff of this. And so to smell the spirulina in bulk like that, it feels like my blood is being cleaned for the most part. And so what I do personally is I take a teaspoon of spirulina. So I have a little to-do list that I do every day. I'm just kind of anal like that I just kind of have to have something that I check off, to make sure that I have been doing what I need to be doing and that I'm on track. Some things get a star, which means it absolutely has to be done today. 2 stars, like I can get away with doing this tomorrow. And 3 stars is like, okay, sometime this week, this needs to be done. And again, those are good things because it helps to keep you from saying, oh my God, I didn't do such and such, the next day or something. And so just kind of being organized and having things in place. So on my little list of to-do things, which is usually a long list, there are small things and there are large things. And some of the small things at the top of my list are like these things that are for my well-being, Excuse me. QTG, quiet time with God, BS, Bible study, so I have to do that whole little thing. And then I have, food intake. And so I have green water, I have yellow water, I have distilled water. And so my green water is a tablespoon of spirulina powder in 16 ounces of distilled water. Why distilled water? We'll talk about that in detail when we talk about water on a show. But for now, it is the only water that meets the definition of pure water. So this is something that I just found recently. One of my clients left me a case about a month ago. So it's vapor distilled water. It's just been difficult to ever get distilled water in small bottles. I usually go to the store and get 6 to 10 gallons every Sunday, and then that way I have all the distilled water I need for a week. So we're going to mix. When you do medical formulations or anything dealing with allopathic care, you're going to find that the formulations are done with distilled water. It has a neutrality that my body's different from your body, so you want something neutral that's going in. what's in the spirulina is what I need, not the lime or anything else that might be in the spring water. Okay, so I'm going to mix my distilled water with my spirulina powder. So when you think about the sea, that is where life in and of itself comes from. And so all of the nutrients that come from the sea, your iodine, calcium, silicon, these are all a part of those 26 minerals that the body needs every single day, not just on the days that we're having seafood, but every single day. You cannot be well without silicon. The body cannot assimilate calcium without a significant amount of iodine in the body. And this is one of the best places that you're going to get a clean source of iodine, outside of sea salt itself. So you get the spirulina powder. It knocks out 3 of the main minerals all in one: the calcium, the silicon, and the iodine, which are just so crucial to the functionality of your organs and glands. You get that in spirulina powder. Thing that you need to be cautious about is where you're getting your spirulina powder from and how clean it is. Not all things are the same. It's just like probably crack, cocaine, or some other type of drug in terms of its levels of purity. So we want to make sure that we're getting good, clean sources. What would be good, clean sources of spirulina? Where the water is cleaner. Okay, so we don't want to be getting it from China. Then I have another powder here. So we talked about green foods cleaning the blood. And this one is simple. This is why I picked out some of the things that I picked out, because we're going through that list. So the most important thing was, we closed our eyes, we remembered that green foods clean the blood. So we're cleaning our blood there. And then we talked about what? We talked about the importance of moving the blood. Red foods are like arterial stimulants, and they move the blood. So when people come to me and they tell me that they've got these issues with their blood and this is clogged, or they feel like they're having a blood clog, whatever. Even if you're not in that category, just because all of us need to make sure that our cardiovascular system is working the way that it should. Unlike the lymphatic system, cardiovascular system has the pumping action of the heart. So you're halfway there with at least some type of help. But we need to make sure that our blood is moving at all times. The circulatory system is not functioning well. Forget trying to have a metabolism that's going to work, or a thyroid that's functioning. Anything. It affects almost every organ and gland in the body. And so cayenne pepper is what color? It's a red food. It comes from the capsicum plant. It's an arterial stimulant. Even if you feel like you're having a heart attack or a stroke, you usually have like 5-7 minutes before it actually comes on. People start saying, oh, my head is hurting. Oh, I feel funny. Whatever. Then you end up calling 911. Always keep some cayenne pepper with you. If you are one that's not eating properly, that's not exercising, that's always stressed, definitely keep a little cayenne pepper with you. Take your finger, lick it, place it on the pepper, and just take that small amount and put it beneath your tongue. Beneath the tongue, the arteries are wide open, also right here on the other side of the cheekbone. The arteries are open, so it will readily go through the body like it should. So that's our green food for cleaning the blood, our red food for moving the blood. Then we have apple cider vinegar here. It's a fermented apple. So apple in and of itself is probably my single most favorite food, closely tied with watermelon. But watermelon is seasonal. You get apples all year round. And so when you think about the apple content, so we talked about these being oxygen carriers. So we're moving the blood, cleaning it, just it's getting through the brain. So this is why apples, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, can't be anything that's more true than that. So you take the apples and they're fermented. Now you have apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar really helps. The reason that I tend to recommend this for people and that I use it on a regular basis is because what it does with the pH levels. The more acidic the body is, the more susceptible you are to whatever illness or disease perpetuating, just, going out of control. Mucus environment. When you have a stomach ache, when there's something that feels weird about your body, then I would go as far, I do 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar straight. And it just is amazing, its ability to just go in and just neutralize everything. So the apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon, a little bit of distilled water, a little bit of raw honey. Now this comes from Costco. This is some raw, supposedly unfiltered honey. I usually use really raw. with the blue top that I'm totally out of. So I had some of this. This is better to pour. I usually pour a teaspoon or so on top of my salads before I put some lemon and maybe a little bit of vinegar and balsamic vinaigrette on it. Let's take a little bit of this. So I like the pouring thing. The other really raw honey is just like glue. So it's good for just taking a little and putting it under your tongue again. So the apple cider vinegar, a little bit of raw honey, and distilled water. You do just 2 or 3 times a day, maybe half a teaspoon, full tablespoon, 4 ounces of water, regular basis. You can Google that anywhere. So then we have our herbs. So when we start talking about holistic healing, we start talking about miracle foods. At the top of that list is parsley. Parsley, the amount of calcium, magnesium, all of the nutrients you can get. 3 sprigs of parsley has more calcium in it than a whole bowl of greens. Literally. Has more vitamin A than an ounce of carrots. So you want to always keep in mind that herbs are basically vegetables. They're foods. When you start talking about getting well, if the gastrointestinal system is not functioning properly, you want to bypass the dysfunctionality of that. That's why we always go to a liquid type of food in order to begin to heal the body, to begin to detoxify the body, to begin to rejuvenate the body. We're doing green water. We're doing cayenne pepper beneath the tongue. We're taking lemons. Keep going back to that picture. So taking lemons for my yellow water. I talked about how I have green water, and then I have yellow water. So my yellow water is the juice of a lemon every single morning. Keeps my liver well. Make sure that I minimize any chances of accumulation of liver fat. And just, it's a yellow food. So we talked about the characteristics of food colors for foods, but also organs are associated with colors. And the liver is considered to be a yellow organ. So you look at things like yellow dock, the herb. You look at lemons. These are things that when you're dealing with hepatitis, those are things that are going to go right to it and cut to the chase. So this herbal tea combination primarily is basically lots of green herbs. We have some parsley. We have some alfalfa. The smell that I'm getting is peppermint. You use lemon balm as a catalyst because not everybody's system is just working like it should, even to get some liquids in. So the lemon balm acts as a catalyst so that it can receive the other herbs. But everybody should have a good green herbal tea blend at home. We sell a wonderful one that's actually engineered to kind of go with the organs and glands of the body. But anything that you can get your hands on to start with would be great. I also have some hawthorn berries in here. Hawthorn berries are like the best thing for people that are dealing with high blood pressure, heart attack, that kind of stuff. So I have some hawthorn berries in here, and I also have hibiscus, and I have some other things. So the majority of this are green herbs, green herbal tea on a daily basis, 3 or 4 times a day if there's something going on with you. Then we move to sweeteners. Want to move away from refined sugars at all costs. What are some alternatives that we have that I keep around? Maple syrup, blackstrap molasses. The amount of calcium that you get from blackstrap molasses crushes any other calcium source. It's as simple as that. And you're only taking half a teaspoon. I simply put it on my tongue when there's something going on with me physically, because typically physical problems have to do with a calcium deficiency. Then I have bee pollen, which in and of itself, listen to this. So in terms of the nutrients that you get here, of course I can't see anything. The dietary fiber and the protein in just a teaspoon of this is amazing. But the natural enzymes, bee pollen is a superfood. We're talking about all these designer superfoods that have come out lately. Bee pollen is at the top of my list. I often tell people, if I were to be stuck on an island and I only had a choice of a few items, I would be there with bee pollen and sea moss and spirulina powder. So these are the 3 things that I wouldn't mind being on the Survivor with, or on some island. If I was there, I really wouldn't be concerned about when I'm getting to the mainland if I had these three um, available with some good water for the most part. So we talk about sea moss. I'm going to talk about sea moss for a moment. So when you're starting on your health journey, it's always a good idea to fast, to go onto a fasting program so that you can begin to detoxify the body and rejuvenate the body. And when you're doing that, if you are consuming fruit and vegetable juices on a juice fast, which is the most effective and quickest way to detoxify the body, we're doing that watermelon flush that we talked about last week, you're actually going in and you're cleaning the trash can, you know. And when we do that, you still need to remove the trash that you've kind of scraped off the walls. That's very important because a lot of people tend to forget that as the body is cleansing itself and you're not physically chewing and consuming foods like normal, then the bowels are not going to be stimulated in the same manner. So what you typically should be trying to do at least some type of enema, if not twice a day, but daily, especially during the initial period of your fast. And the time that I can get away with that, where my bowels will actually move without me having to eat food, is when I do sea moss. So this is what sea moss looks like. Just the same little swiggly stuff that you see when you're walking along the beach. And so you buy the sea moss. Now there's a little, not controversy, but I've noticed there's some pamphlets around and there's some information disseminated on how to prepare sea moss. And you can just feel the natural salt from the sea on here. So what you want to do is you want to take your sea moss and you want to soak it. And then you want to rinse it because of the different nutrients that are found at the bottom of the sea. So you soak it in its content and then you rinse it very, very well after you've soaked it. So after you soak it, it's going to be very soft and pliable. And then a lot of people will heat it. They'll boil it. And as you know, whenever anything is exposed to temperatures that exceed 113 degrees, they're no longer considered to be in their pure, natural, raw, whole state. So why people do that, I really don't know. After you've soaked it and you let it sit and you clean it very well, it's going to be soft enough to do what they do after they boil it. They put it into a blender. So just soak it overnight, clean it really well, and then throw it into your blender, cover it with 1.5 times its water, blend it, and then you're going to have something that looks like jello for the most part, a paste. Then you can add lemon juice to that, and then you consume a tablespoon per serving. And for some of us, that serving may be 3 times a day, 5 times a day. I don't know that you can take too much sea moss initially. But you will see your bowels move like nothing else. Now, do I need to be fasting in order to do this? Absolutely not. I try to do a tablespoon first thing in the morning when I wake up before I work out. It is amazing what it does to the human body. The nutrients that you find in sea moss are very similar to what you find in the green spirulina powder, simply because both of them are in the same environmental conditions. So the calcium, the magnesium, the iodine, the silicon that you find in spirulina, you will also find in sea moss. But this has every nutrient that is composed in the human body except 3 elements. So it is what we call a complete nutrient. This is what you can survive off of, just by itself. Now, I've mentioned this to several of my clients. Some of them will buy containers of the raw sea moss. This is considered raw sea moss. Some of them will buy the containers where we've prepared it for them. People that have hair thinning problems, hair conditions, what we'll do is prepare it and we'll add the oils that the hair needs for growth, sage oil and things like that. And they can just put it on as a gel, put a shower cap over it, sleep in it overnight, and just watch what happens. And not only are you feeding the follicles in your hair, but again, it's going into your pores, into your system. So your blood is benefiting from it as well. This is so inexpensive when you think about what it does for the human body. So yes, and then we have more sea vegetables, anything that's from the sea, whether it's kelp or dulse or anything. Just go into the supermarket in the international aisle and buy as much of it as you can. I usually get the crumbled kelp seed, and you can just squeeze it. It already comes very crumbled, and I sprinkle it on my salads, like 1/4 of a cup. And then that way you have like the salty kind of thing going on because it naturally comes from the sea without having to add processed salt or salt that's been iodinized. Here's some here. So this is what the crumbled seaweed looks like. Looks like rat turds almost, but that's what you want to put onto your salads after you sprinkle a little lemon oil, whatever type of dressing that you're using. This is going to begin to get soft, and then it will expand, and it will look more like wet green stuff. But it has if you eat it pretty quickly after you put it on, it has a little crunch to it, and it definitely has a little salty flavor going on. But the nutrient level is just phenomenal. It takes your salad to an entire... What could take a good multicolored salad, which is already the best thing for you, to a new level? Adding a little dried seaweed on top of it. And these things are just invaluable. So we've talked about a lot of things today. I can't emphasize how important it is to have these items in your pantry. It will make a world of a difference. You can throw this into your smoothie. I usually put like 1/4 cup into a smoothie blender container, which nets me about 60 ounces of smoothie. I take the bee pollen, and then I'll put, 3 tablespoons of spirulina powder in there. And I will have the sea moss that's already prepared, the jelly type, and I'll put like 1/4 cup of that in. And that is what's going to have you have energy out the gazoo hoo hoo. So these are the favorite things of mine. So we're going to flip over to that other screen in a minute and talk about those things so that you can just see what they look like in your pantry board. And they're basically just pictures of the seaweed, the bee pollen, the spirulina. Those were the ones that I called out because these are if you ever had to survive. And then, of course, Dallas popcorn. Always want to have Dallas popcorn. That's another superfood, something that's got total amount of fiber in it. One thing that I didn't bring is what we actually put into Dallas popcorn, or onto, I should say, and that's nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast, for its namesake, has tons of nutrients in it that are difficult to get from regular foods. So you're talking about all of your B vitamins, folic acid, niacin, very, very important nutrients that, again, are difficult to get from regular foods. So we actually have it in the popcorn. We spray the popcorn with sunflower oil to give it that buttery taste after it's been air popped. And then we spray it with a seasoning blend that has a considerable amount of not only nutritional yeast, but lots of the other herbs that do the body well. And what I didn't bring was my little garlic piece. So garlic, again, is a part of the whole vegetable and fruit scene, but it's a superfood. So what you can do with fresh garlic is you can slice a piece open, put it inside of the jawbone, and just allow it to pull the toxic matter out of the body. The anisin that you find in the sulfur content in garlic, nothing can survive in that. And so especially if you're dealing with cancer situations and diseases like that, you just want to detoxify the body. If you're trying to calm yourself down, I mean, just every now and then, once a week, just slice some garlic and put it beneath your tongue, inside the cheekbone, and just let it sit overnight, and it will do the body well, lower the blood pressure, just all kinds of great things. But the nutrient content that comes in that is unbelievable. So I hope that this has been helpful. I think that's all I really want to talk about for this. If you want to get our booklet, Temple Restoration, again, this information and a lot of other just valuable nuggets, I call it, are in here. It's a very easy read. And then more importantly, you can just fold it up and keep it in your jacket. When you go to the supermarket, it tells you what should be in your basket when you're buying fruits and vegetables, how you only buy bananas that have brown spots on them, or, if you're not going to be eating them in the next couple of days, that's different. But if you're going to take the banana and eat it on the way home from the grocery store run, then it needs to have brown spots on it. It talks about, the importance of raspberries and strawberries, all the nutrients that you get in that. So all of those are a part of the food part. This is what I call food sources that you keep in your pantry that are just invaluable in terms of us being healthy. So try to remember, green foods clean the blood, red foods move the blood. Yellow foods are natural laxatives. Blue foods are good for the mind and the spirit. Yellow foods are natural laxatives. And white foods are oxygen carriers. Red foods, arterial stimulants. I think I covered them all. Thank you for joining us, and send me your questions and comments. Dallas@lifebydallas.com. That's Dallas@lifebydallas.com if you have any questions or comments, or if you want us to talk about something that you're having some problems with. We'll be more than happy to do that. We welcome your suggestions, and we thank you for spending your hour with us here on Ask Dr. Dallas. Have a great day.